In the last video, we had a look at applying a range filter to our dashboard. Now, we've done quite a lot in this video series. We've been able to look at the two options of embedding Tableau dashboards by using the embed code, but also by using the JavaScript API. We've been able to create an HTML page, a JavaScript file, and also start interacting with our web page. So we're able to hide our visualization, show it, export to PDF and image, and then also apply some filters. Now, there's a lot more capabilities and also possibilities of the JavaScript API. But what I now want to look at is, and this will be the last video in this series, is another thing called kind of authentication. How do we authenticate people when they look at their dashboards? Because what we've been doing at the moment is we are using a Tableau public dashboard. Now, you don't want to, if you have sensitive data, publish that onto Tableau public and have everyone be able to access that. What you want is to embed Tableau in your own portal or in your own product that you have. Now, Tableau has created this thing called the Tableau Embed Playbook. And the Tableau Embed Playbook is a really good kind of document where you can read through all of the moving parts of embedding Tableau in your portal. So if we go to the Embed Playbook here, it's I'll put a link in the show notes. We have kind of these options on the left-hand side. So it tells us what is embedding, which you now know, which you've learned. We've done the JavaScript API. And now in this section about authentication and single sign-on, this is what you really need to think about when you start embedding Tableau. Now, first of all, the main question that you need to ask yourself is, are we going to use Tableau Server or Tableau Online? And depending on that choice, you have different options. Now, the majority of the people use Tableau Server as for embedding. And within Tableau Server, you then have two options as well. So if you're on user-based licensing, a good way to work with embedded is using trusted authentication. If you are using core-based licensing at Tableau, you have access to the so-called guest account. This guest account is basically, if I go to the documentation here, so core-based licenses of Tableau Server include a guest account, which basically means you can let people access Tableau views without an account on the server. So it's almost a little bit like Tableau public in a way that you can display it publicly. Okay, you, of course, have a lot more controls over what people can see and what can people do. And I wouldn't compare the functionality the same with Tableau Public, but what I would compare it with is the ability to display this to a wider audience. Now that's the guest user. If you have core-based license, this is enabled by default, so you don't have to enable that. And that basically means that you don't get a login pop-up saying, hey, log in and access this view. Now, I already mentioned, and this is one of the most common ways of embedding Tableau is by using trusted authentication. Now, what trusted authentication does is it's basically what it will do for you is it will give you a list, and this is something you need to add to your Tableau server, is you need to add a list of trusted hosts. So that means that if a request comes from that particular host, which is then trusted, it will give you a token. And that trusted token is then being added to the URL of your Tableau dashboard. Okay, so if we go to the, let's see here, we go, authentication and single sign-on. For trusted authentication, you can see here the configuration. This is a one-step process. So you first, in Tableau Server, you configure which IP addresses you want to trust. Then after that, these are often just web applications. So that can be the actual application on which you host the web application, so the portal. What we then do is when actually people go to that page that contains the Tableau dashboard, the page makes a post request to the server that is trusted. Now, when that is successful, it returns you a ticket. And that particular ticket is then added to the view. So the client then loads the view with the ticket. We hop back into this setup here. You can kind of see how this works. So we have Tableau server here. It makes basically a request to the web server, the one that's being trusted. It then goes to Tableau server and say, hey, is this a trusted entity? Tableau says, yes, let's go back. So it then sends you back a ticket. Once you got the ticket, you send the ticket to Tableau server, including the URL of the server, and then it renders back the dashboard. Now, this is a fairly quick process. And there's like a TSM command, but you can also do this in the TSM user interface to add these trusted entities. And this documentation is quite good. It walks you through what you need to do. At the Information Lab, we have set up a Lambda function to return these tickets for us. Now, if you're just starting out with embedding Tableau, I would first start learning a little bit more about the JavaScript API, about JavaScript as such as well. And then maybe start playing with this if this is something you'd like to do in your portal. So if we then go here, we also have some other options. So you can use Kerberos, Active Directory, SAML, and OpenID. Those are mainly for single sign-on experiences. So that means if someone is already authenticated somewhere, you can then automatically authenticate someone. So for good examples are here, for example, Okta and OneLogin. Those allow you to sign in once somewhere, and then you're authenticated in Tableau as well. Okay. One of the other things to mention around embedding and Tableau is around user filtering. So in Tableau, you can set up user filters. And those user filters also propagate down to the dashboard that you're embedding. So if you do and set up a user filter in Tableau dashboards, those people that also log in to the server then see the content that's only relevant for them. Okay, so this section of the playbook talks about user management, content management, and the REST API. So this is, for example, an example of how a particular dashboard could look. And it's quite a nice example. Now, for example, another thing that you can do with Tableau is embed it into Salesforce or embed it into SharePoint. Kind of anywhere where you have a little web object or a web application, you can embed Tableau. Okay? If you're interested in learning more about embedding Tableau into Salesforce, then I would link to the videos that I've done previously about embedding Tableau dashboards into Salesforce. And we're actually using some Salesforce data there. So thanks a lot for joining these videos. It was lots of fun to explain the concepts of the Tableau JavaScript API. And let me know if you have any questions. You can put them in the comments, or you can contact me on the various social media.